Who said the EU elections couldn't be fun? Joining me now, reaction is Raheem Kassam, Global Editor-in-Chief for Human Events, and Andrea Kendall-Taylor, Senior Fellow and Director of the Transatlantic Security Program at the Center for a New American Security. Great to have both of you on. All right, Andrea, let's start with you. How is this not seen as a rebuke of the globalists? Angela Merkel did her best in that interview with Christiane Amanpour, but isn't it a fact that these people have just failed the people of their country? I mean, they have flatlining GDP, their unemployment is through the roof, and their consumer confidence is in the toilet. Ours is going up.
I think you're absolutely right to highlight that there has been a big backlash against the mainstream and politics as usual in Europe, and this European election was no exception to that. We did see the populists and the far right do exceptionally well, but I think there's another part of the story too, which was you saw really a reaction on all sides of the political spectrum. Turnout was higher than it's been in decades, and it wasn't just the far right that did so well. It was the liberals, it was the Greens, and so I think more than kind of focusing on the populists, this really was a story about fragmentation of politics in Europe.
Oh, Raheem, is that it? I mean, it seems like every time the populists do well, they do well, but there are all these other things going on. In other words, they just can't do well because they've done well. I mean, Nigel Farage comes out. 6 weeks ago he started his party. This is unheard of. The reason I started the show with this, and people would tell me not to do it, because this is Europe. Americans don't care about Europe. But I'm trying to tell people, connect the dots so you understand the arc of history here. This same thing happened with the Trump election. It was a rejection of the Bushes, the Obamas, and the Clintons. All of it, not just Hillary Clinton, bad candidate. The whole thing, flatlining income. Is that not the case in Europe? People think it doesn't work. Different characters, different personalities, but the system is failing the middle class.
This was a big, stonking victory for everybody who doesn't like big government and everybody who wants to stop the centralization of power to Brussels. And that actually does include some of the far-left Greens and Liberals in the European Parliament who did pick up seats.
Yeah, they're mad too.
They're into localism. They want more power to the people.
Good.
This was a people's election of the highest order. And like you say, with 6 weeks, Farage comes out, wins a national election, sets history for the second time. The second time he has, with a new political party, won a major national election.
They just don't want Brexit.
Well, so here's the thing about it.
They don't want Brexit.
And some of the UK media is trying to spin it, that this is somehow a victory for the left because the Liberal Democrats got some more votes as well. Hello, the Brexit Party won, and it won big. This means that whoever comes in to replace Theresa May as Prime Minister in Britain has to take Britain out of the European Union, or they'll be hell to pay.
But then, Andrea, I'm hearing that Boris Johnson, the heir apparent, as they call him, that he's not liked by a lot of the kind of Trump coalition here because he's been kind of a never-Trumper. That Boris Johnson is not the savior that a lot of people think he is. He had the chance to run last time, and he bagged it. So what about that? They could be in some trouble there in the Conservative Party unless they have something. Who do they have?
Well, I like Esther McVeigh, but...
Absolutely, but this gets to the bottom line, though, which is the story about fragmentation. And as you have all of these new parties popping up all across the political spectrum, power is being diffused over more and more actors, and it's getting increasingly hard, I think, for democracies to deliver.
But, well, they're not pure. They're not really, I mean, they're parliamentary democracies. It's a different deal in Europe. It's much harder to affect change in Europe than it is here.
Plurality of opinion is better. Better than a two-party system where Labour and the Conservatives have, for the last 100 years, told people what to think, and you've only got two choices at the ballot box. Now we have this ability to really express our opinions, and like you say, Amnesty Boris, as I call him, Amnesty Boris, who wants amnesty for 10 million illegal immigrants in the United Kingdom, he's the continuity Cameron and May candidate.
Oh, no, we can't. Oh, that's great. Okay, Nigel Farage was on TV tonight with Tucker Carlson, our own Tucker Carlson. Let's watch.
They claim that as a European Union they will deal with climate change. They claim that because they have open borders, this is the modern liberal approach to the future. What they don't tell you is they are literally killing and destroying something. What the European Union does, it crushes democracy, it takes decision-making powers away from ordinary people and gives it to unelected bureaucrats.
What of that, Andrew?
Yeah, I think what you're saying, though, is right, that there is a crisis of democracy. People are dissatisfied with politics as usual. But the risk is...
But the elites, what I'm trying to say, Andrea, the elites have they promised us that they were the experts. I mean, they're the elites. They're called the elites for a reason. They went to all the right schools. They had all the right think tank. You know, I know you're in a think tank. But, no, but you know, they have residencies. They always get re-upped to their contracts. They're often wrong. And they promise the world to the people in Europe.
This is all true, but I think the risk is then with the polarization that we're seeing from a lot of these populist parties and candidates, we're moving out towards the end of the political spectrum, and democracy is not going to be able to deliver for everyday people. There is something, this is a wake-up call, I think, for democracy, that there is something broken in the middle. But the populist rhetoric that we're seeing and the polarization is not the way to fix it. And in fact, it's going to make the problem worse.
When you say that, be specific. I mean, because what I hear is that Hungary wants a Hungarian culture, and Germany, a lot of Germans want a German culture, and they don't want the past bad stuff, but they want them German identity, and that's not a bad thing. And people like the idea of, like, you know, they're all, it's fun to go in Europe, and they're different countries and different cultures, and people kind of wanted to smash all that up and say, oh, it's all just one big blob. And I'm sorry, but a lot of the people are rejecting that, and they're also rejecting the million-plus migrants. I mean, refugees. I don't think we can discount the effect that that's had even on the socialists in Sweden. I've never seen anything like I'm seeing in Sweden. Sweden is changing.
But I think the risk is if you break it and you knock it down, it's going to ultimately benefit some of the kind of U.S. adversaries like Russia and China. So when they look out over the political spectrum and they see the polarization and they see the divisions, those are things that they're looking to amplify, sow discord in Western democracies.
Well, no, but Russia's not causing the flatlining income. Russia's not causing it.
They didn't cause it, but
China and the centralized EU are in bed together. Breaking up the European Union actually hurts China. The European Union's policies have been to bring Chinese money in and to use Chinese money to
has to argue with all those countries now.
The populists are hurting China, just like Donald Trump is.
But Biden, I want to play this for you, Raheem, because Biden is out there, and he's extremely popular right now among Democrats, and he has noted this most recently last October. Let's watch.
Stop this phony populism, which is about, I have a problem, it's because of that immigrant or that black guy. Or stop this naked nationalism, which instead of making us number one, is making us last.
It's making us last. We're the envy of the world right now. Our GDP, I think, is the most strongest in the developed world, no doubt about it. But nevertheless, the word nationalism has a terrible connotation in many circles, and Merkel was tying it back to, of course, the Nationalist Socialist Party, which is Hitler and so forth, and that makes people very uncomfortable. Is that fair?
Well, this man is a disgrace. 10 years ago, he used to go on television saying we need to close the border, we've got a border crisis. 10 years ago, he went on television and talked about learning English. You know, this man has said for years and years that America has problems with mass migration, not with immigration, with mass migration.
That was Biden's words. I watched it on YouTube over the weekend.
You've seen it too, yeah. And now he goes and says this. I mean, firstly, it's a complete falsehood about populism that he's painting. This isn't anti-anyone. This is pro-people. This is pro-democracy. This is pro-localism. A lot of the green populist parties know this as well because they want to be conservationist from a local level. Their green agenda, they want it implemented from a local, not a centralized level. This guy has no idea what he's talking about.
Growing food, from which I agree with.
Yeah, exactly.
Growing
he has no idea what he's
locally,
talking about.
and they have some interesting local. I think the Greens and the populists can make some deals on that. But back to before we let you go, isn't it true that the mainstream parties have blown it, though? I mean, they should have gotten a wake-up call in the first Brexit. And instead, they just try to kill the Brexit people instead of saying, gosh, what are we doing wrong? And maybe we've got to, like, give them something.
Yeah.
And I think they didn't. And so now we're back at square one with people still angry, and now they've made even more inroads.
Yeah, I agree that there's something that's fundamentally broken, that it should have been a wake-up call. But I think the way to fix it, again, is not by people sowing discord and creating divisions between, you know, the elite and the people. But we need leaders who are going to build consensus and be able to lead us out of that, and not by breaking things, but by building kind of a...
Yeah, I mean, I think
the elites caused the division, though. Don't forget, it wasn't our side that caused the division. You know, they set this up against the haves versus the have-nots. Right, that was how the elites have governed now since the Bill Clinton's third way politics, Tony Blair's thing. Right, it was all that trajectory, and now it's coming home to roost. They have to take, they have to be accountable for what they did to our country.
We all play a role. I mean, I
Absolutely.
agree.
Well, we want elites who actually make good decisions. I'm happy with elites making good decisions, but when elites just ignore the will of the people, then they're going to get in trouble.
We need a democracy that works.
Yeah, a democracy that's respected. When people vote for Brexit, they should get Brexit. And then if it doesn't work, then you can throw those bums out. I mean, that's how it works.
We will.
Great conversation, and I think you can talk about these issues. All right, panel, thanks so much.